So what's new?
Yeah, we've just been busy. I don't know. Look, story of your life, but I feel like we're finally kind of at a season where events are slowly returning. And, my heart outside of this podcast is emceeing the local events and being on the mic. And I just love being able to facilitate those things. And we have probably a good 2 solid months of every weekend there's some type of an event or gala. And I feel like it's kind of equal parts happy that they're back, but like missing sweatpants and
Right.
my under eye like bag patches. So I don't know. How are you feeling about everything coming back?
No, it's been fun seeing all the networking again, and so I'm definitely happy that it's back. And we've got one here coming up. We may release this after, but the big annual Chamber Gala, which
Yeah.
again, I learned something new about you every week, which you are about to be here in a president elect. Is that right?
Yeah, so they chair elect, I guess technically is their
Okay.
terminology for it. And I don't even know. I would love to, I probably need to really look into what's politically correct. Is it chairwoman of the board? Is it chairman of the board who happens to be a female? I don't know. But I mean, from all of our years of friendship, how important the chamber is to me. And I was just so humbled that I was selected for that position. And to be able to study under our mutual friend Mike Barber is going to be such an honor, and to learn from him. And just Tony and the team have done an outstanding job, and so I'm ready to crack the whip and put some of my skills on there. So it'll be fun. 2023 is going to be a fun year.
Oh, well, I know you'll sprinkle some Ashley dust all over it and change things up, and it'll turn out great as always.
Well, speaking of another year, you just celebrated your 21st birthday again.
Yeah, for the 26th time.
Yeah, Rain Man. I'm not good at math, but you're getting on up there. What birthday was this? What year is this for you?
It's a total uneventful year, so it's number 47.
Oh my gosh.
So, I'm at the age now, or as you like to say, the season now, that I have to do the math every year to figure out how old I am.
Yeah.
And then we're in this 3 month window because I'm 3 months older than Dana. Her birthday is April 16th.
Yeah.
And so every single year, she just gets a kick out of having 3 months where she can call me an old man and talk about how I'm older than her. And then come April 16th, all those jokes in. So
I love it. Old man. She takes full advantage. Well, I was so sad that I didn't get to make it. Again, event season. We had something else the evening, but we were invited to your birthday party and it looked like the event of the century. So questions, I'm gonna grill you on this. So first
okay.
of all, it was supposed to be a surprise. This may be a question for Dana, but we were all keeping it under wraps. She did such a great job. It was like a private invite. What happened to the surprise element of the party?
Yeah, it started off that way. And Dana is not good at holding secrets or surprises. And so around Christmas, she blurted it out. She was like, "Okay, I've got to tell you," because there was just so much planning that was happening. She was ordering all these things from Amazon that were going to be showing up that I may open. And so she was like, "I just need to let the cat out of the bag and let you know that we're hosting a party." And not only that, but it was kind of an 80s, 90s themed, kind of hip hop, old school kind of theme, because that was my jam back in the day.
That's your jam now. Let's be honest. That's like some people are like pumping to jock jams at the gym. I feel like you've got your 80s, 90s hip hop on the earbuds, right?
I'm not gonna lie. I still love it. I kick it with some country. Dana has gotten some country into me, so I can go back and forth. But I love going back old school. So, I mean, that was my generation. Suburban males. That's what we listened to. We thought we were so cool. This is something I've never shared publicly, but when I was in high school, I was actually in a gang. Not a gang like you would think.
Yeah.
We were all a bunch of honor students and nerds, and we just basically called ourselves the Vikings. And we had cool hats, dorky hats, and I think there may have been a hand symbol. And we literally did nothing bad, but that's just the thing we did, and it was, looking back, really stupid. So, but yeah, that's me in high school.
I need to see photos from your Vikings gang days. And I need you to know that if there are any Cowboys fans listening today, Jeff was a Viking first. We now can all establish that there was a team before the Cowboys. I'm just going to call you a Vikings fan now from here on out. That's too funny. I mean, I was looking at the pictures, of course, it was amazing. Everybody came themed out, right, as like maybe an artist of that time or just in the color schemes. It was so good. How did you decide on your outfit for the evening?
Well, you know, mine was easy because I got to wear sweats and my Adidas and rock my Adidas and my old hat and what was funny is how much everyone got into it. Like we normally stress about Halloween, just trying to be creative. This was easy, and man, people really, really got into it. And so it was funny to kind of see the direction people went. Amazon must have had a run on gold jewelry. And it's funny because like 6 different people ordered the same gold necklace, and so we were joking.
Was it the dollar sign
with the
necklace?
dollar sign. Oh yeah. So
there was a dog with the necklace on at one point in the evening. I saw some really cool photos.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Dana loves to entertain, and she loves to throw good parties. So anytime she's throwing a party, it's definitely a can't miss. So we're sorry you didn't make it, because I know y'all would have probably rocked the costumes, although y'all would have had to kind of like research what the 80s and 90s were.
Yes.
You wouldn't really have understood, but I'm sure
I had a whole plan. I was going to come as like me in the 80s. So diapers that was going to be my plan. Just, baby bottle and the whole nine. But I thought it was so fun. One of the things I've always I'm a birthday month type of girl. You know this about me. You guys have always done such a great job at celebrating my birthday and making it a big deal, but it's just the event of the century. So I appreciated the detail that went into your party. What are birthdays like in your house? I mean, is it like just the day of you're celebrating? Do you do like a family dinner later? Do you get to pick the event? How do birthdays go?
Well, ours are a challenge because we've got 3 in the same week. And so Dana's like you, where it's definitely, an event and a month-long celebration. And my daughter, Caitlin, I don't think 1 month is enough for her. She celebrates her half birthday. So we have to figure that out. We have to add 6 months every year. And then she reminds us when it's her half birthday. And so really, usually it's centered around Caitlin. So Zach's is the 19th of January. Mine's the 22nd, and then Caitlin's is the 23rd. So it's usually all about Caitlin. And
Caitlin's my girl.
And me and Zach, usually in most years, Dad gets a high five and way to go, attaboy. So it's fun for us to kind of do a blowout. But so how we did it this year is we took, we had to celebrate Zach before he went back to college, which was a little sad. So first time we weren't with him on his actual birthday, but we went and stayed in Carlton Landing the weekend before and did kind of a whole blowout for him that weekend. And then we did Caitlin Friday night, took all of her friends to Legacy West. She loves Legacy West. That's the teen selfie mecca. So we did that. We came back on Saturday, did mine. And then Sunday, we did another Caitlin event where we took a bunch of her other friends downtown for dinner and ice cream and so forth. So Dana survived another year. It's always a week of stress for her. And, she called it her hell week at one point. But
mid-April's right around the corner. Yeah, don't worry. We're going to be celebrating her soon. I love it. And I do think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Caitlin's on the streets now. She got her learner's permit. How is that possible?
Frisco.
She's a baby. Like, how is she driving? I can't believe that.
I know. And Dana and I, we've taught all of our kids, how to drive. And it usually kind of falls back to me. So we'll see. Her first early test runs were better than the boys. So that's definitely a good start.
We'll see how your girl is. That's so funny. One of the things I wanted to ask you, and I feel like this comes up a lot when you're talking in town and stuff, but is there still this like mentality that like kids Caitlin's age don't want to drive? Is that still like a big thing? Like when I was growing up, I was like midnight registering, showing up at the DMV. Interesting fact too, like in my hometown, the DMV, you drive a dually. Like they just provide it. And it's like in my, very country town. And it's like, if you can pass the driving test in a dually, you can drive anything. Right. So it's kind of funny, but do kids still want to drive? Do they want cars?
Mine have always been the type that wanted the first day. Now there's been a lot of that. A lot of their friends aren't that way. In fact, Zach now, I mean, he's in college, and he still has some friends that haven't gotten their license. And so, yeah, that's kind of become a thing.
Is it Uber? Like, is it they ride with their friends? Like, why is that?
Yeah, it's a lot of ride with friends, and so I don't know. I don't get it. I wanted it the first day that I could possibly get out on the streets, and it was funny. I almost got in a wreck, literally less than 50 yards from the DMV when I got my driver's license at 16. They had a
in 1924, and way back when.
Yeah, exactly. So I was with my mom, and of course I've had my license for a hot minute, and I'm trying to obey every single traffic signal. And so I was coming up on a red light, and it turned yellow, kind of like right as I'm getting into it, where, most people now would, continue on through. That's what a yellow light is designed for. And man, I slammed on my brakes, and a big van right behind me, expecting me to go through, had to slam on their brakes and just came within inches of smashing into the back of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have gotten a wreck and I don't have my license literally for less than 2 minutes, that would have been a bad story.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that you lived to tell the tale of getting your driver's license eventually. That's good.
Well, speaking of cars and driving, and we have got an awesome guest today. I can't wait to talk about. You want to tell us about who we have today?
It's funny. We talked a lot about this kind of exiting our last interview, right? And we were just dreaming of who we should have on. And I just cannot say enough amazing things about our next guest. He will be no stranger to anybody who's viewing or listening to the show, but to say that he's family would be the understatement of the century. Pastor Earnest B. Morgan, barbecue phenom, car salesman to the stars, is on Untold today. Pastor Earnest, what's good?
Ernest B.
All good is all good, Jeff and Ashley. Wow. I'm thankful to be here. Thank you guys for allowing me to come on this podcast. I'm extremely excited about it. And congratulate y'all for coming out, having enough courage to develop this, and so we can give our listeners something to hear. So everything is good with me.
Well, it's funny when we introduce somebody, it's usually like chief executive officer, director of business development. With you, I mean, it's like, Ernest, there's not a resume in the world long enough, a LinkedIn profile, to be able to not just, talk about your accomplishments, but you hold a lot of titles, my friend, a lot of titles. How do you balance it all? How are you giving us a few minutes of your time today? I want to know that.
Well, one of the things is it's really just loving what I do, right? I just love connecting to people. I love just whether that's cooking or preaching or just being in the community. I think my gift, God placed me to be able to connect to people. That's my gift, and it comes natural and it comes organic. And this was just an amazing opportunity. I just felt like I wanted to be here, so I had somebody to run the restaurant. Got my guys cutting meat for me that I could get and talk to Ashley and Jeff. So that's what I do. The way I balance it is my wife is one of the biggest supporters I have, and she helps me kind of fulfill, whatever we need to do. She kind of hold it down, and, with my kids, we just make it work. Make it work. So that's how I do it.
Jeff can relate to that.
Well, in the prior podcast, we recognized that, Ashley and Justin, they celebrated their 10th anniversary. Dana and I celebrated our 20th. You just dunked on us and recently celebrated number 25, right?
Yes, sir. December 28, 2021. Me and my wife been married 25 years, and I'm 45. She's 47. So we've been together since we started dating in high school. She graduated 2 years before me. I told her she robbed the cradle. She didn't give me time to be raised. She just snatched me out. So we started dating. I was 17 and she was 19, and we married. I was 19. She was 22. So that's how we've done it all these years. It's been amazing.
Wow. So what's 25? Like what gift are you supposed to give? I don't even know. What did you do? Did you do anything special?
I don't know what gift, but it's silver. So silver is 25 years. I had gave her a 25-year wedding ring, a new ring, actually replaced the one I gave her when we first married. And She still got that one, and I replaced it. But we had fun. We just kind of like, she wanted ice cream. We went to Chamberlain Steakhouse, which Richard Chamberlain, owner Chamberlain, is a great friend of mine, been for years. And he had us to come up, and they made us this special dinner, and I had a, Wagyu ribeye steak and all the trimmings. It was good. So we had a good time at Chamberlain's.
That the silver you got her this year is that silver in that beard. I see it.
Oh,
It's
yep,
good.
sipping the beer. That's right.
Sprinkle it in there.
Yep.
Well, one thing I love about you is that you are a Frisco homer, cheerleader, lover, and we don't think anyone can compete with Frisco, but your hometown, I guess, kind of maybe gives it a run for its money. Tell us about all that.
Yeah, well, Amory, Amory, Mississippi. It sits central between Birmingham, Alabama, and Memphis, Tennessee. And so,
Go Tigers.
I'm from the country. I'm in the heart of Go Tigers. She knew I was going to say Roll Tide, but that's okay. But it sit between Central because the railroad made it famous. So the railroad, Amory was just a little small Mayberry kind of town, and the railroad gave it some type of definition. My grandfather and my uncles, they all worked on the railroad, actually building the original railroad. And so it sits central because the trains would change over in our city and, get a different rail. My wife, dad was an engineer for the railroad. He worked 31 years as a train engineer. And anyway, Amory was a change-off spot. It's central. And because it was the biggest source of the economy in the city, they celebrated it. So they started this railroad festival, 1979. They started this railroad festival, 42 years, been having a railroad festival with 100,000+ people, which that's a lot in my city. Amory just got a population of 6,800 people. Okay. Wow. And so for like Texas State Fair go a month, this festival is a 3-day festival. And if it rains, somebody in trouble. If you get 3 days, you're waiting on this festival to come. But it's been a celebration for 42 years. Amory City is amazing place. That's my hometown, home of Mitch Moreland. Okay, so Mitch Moreland played for the Rangers. Okay. Mitch first got called up from Mississippi State to play for the Rangers. We did a welcome home celebration for Mitch Moreland, and the mayor of Amory asked me would I come and barbecue for Mitch. So I was able to come, and I barbecued for Mitch Moreland. Had it set up in the mayor's office. So our town, Trent Hammond, supposed to have been the last American Idol, but they didn't have another one since then. But I went to Trent. Trent mom and dad own a steakhouse in Amory, and I used to watch Trent play just a small acoustic guitar in the corner of the restaurant. We didn't even know he would ever make it to American Idol, but we would be eating a steak. It's called Longhorn Steakhouse. But Trent Harmon would be in there playing, and all of a sudden, he hit it big. And so that's the home of Trent Harmon, and of course, the home of Ernest B. So that's how, it started. But Amory just adopted Frisco logo. I know because of the railroad. It's one of the cities that share that same logo on the side of the city hall. So you picture Amory as a small town with the mayor's, the city hall is in the middle. Next door is the fire department. Next door is the police department. Next door is the city clerk. It's just one little small town, but the park that sits central is Frisco City Park. And so the same exhibit we got at Frisco Station downtown, all that, we got that same exhibit right by the Discovery Center. We got that same exhibit in Amory sitting right on a smaller scale, but it's sitting right in the city park. And everything about Frisco and my city, it's like, wow, God has such a sense of humor that I could, through a storm, and I'll tell y'all later how I ended up in Frisco from Amory. It's just an amazing connection.
That's crazy. We've got some wild competition, Jeff.
I know.
Yeah.
This logo, it has special meaning for you. You may need to get a tattoo or something.
I'm telling you, I might get one on me because that's just, it's like I said, birds belong in the air, fish belong in the sea, and I belong in Frisco, Texas.
I'm calling it right now. Frisco lower back tattoo, Earnest B. Morgan, all day. You heard it here first. That's the purpose of this podcast.
Right.
Earnest, we joke, and I think my favorite thing about you is you're always smiles. I mean, it's like you are the king of, I could be having the worst Tuesday on the map. And for what, like, so you got a beeper that's like, I'm going to text somebody and give them, empower them today, love on them today, give them some encouragement. And I'm like, my Earnest beeper must have gone off. It's like the logo, what is it? Spider-Man, Batman logo in the sky. You're just all, you know how to encourage people and lift them up always. And you probably don't realize or underestimate. It always happens when we need it most, especially with my family. But there was a time before this Earnest Bee, right? I mean, there was a time before it was all rainbows and butterflies. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Well, my life, growing up in Mississippi is at the bottom of pretty much every place in terms of economics, in terms of obesity. If you're thinking about racism, it basically started in Mississippi. Any possible depleting situation I was placed in growing up. So my mom, we got 5 brothers. Okay, I'm the oldest of all of us. But my mom and dad, my whole life, and I can't even think about a family like I raised my kids. But I was raised by 2 parents that was addicted to cocaine. My mom and dad both was addicted to cocaine and drugs and alcohol. My father, alcoholic. I mean, just my whole life, I never seen a Huxtable style African American family. I never seen what a real family felt like. I don't know what it really means to have a dad that was present. He was in the home. My mom and dad been married 40 years, but my dad was in the home, but not at home. That make any sense? He was in the house, but he was totally separate. But my whole life was just, I was raised in, when I say drama, I'm talking about chaos, guns, drugs, violence, my whole life. And that attached itself to me. My mom, when I first was acquainted with drugs, she had me at 16 years old. And I was about 8 years old, and I found some drugs she had hid. And we were staying with my grandparents at the time, and she was 16, quit high school. My mom quit high school when she got pregnant with me. And so when that happened, she continued to go into drugs. Well, I found drugs at 8 years old. And just because of the environment, I often tell people, your environment, the place that you're in, you can look at a person and look at the environment, and you can basically dictate where they're going to head in the next 5 years based on just the company they keep, the way they surround themselves. But I was just in a negative environment. And so I started selling crack cocaine at 13 years old, just because it was just the only way we could survive. You're talking about even today, Mississippi, if you're making $500 to $600 a week in Mississippi, most of the time people are comfortable with that lifestyle. I was just home 2 months ago, but it was something. My mom was in drugs, and I ended up selling drugs. And so at 13 years old, me and a friend of mine, his parents, he was going through a troubling time. We started selling peddling dope at 13. 13 years old, I got drugs in my hand in Mississippi. And from 13 to 15, I sold drugs just to stay alive. And my mom would steal drugs from me. She would find out where I had, the drugs that she was stealing. It's just a bad situation. At 15, Jeff, I got stabbed. My friend got to fighting with a guy in the city park, not the city park Amory, but in our part of the town. So Amory and Frisco is the same. It was a railroad track that ran through the city. And now literally on one side was white folks and on this side was black folks. That's my whole life. And all the black folks would want to move to the white side of town. And then the white side would move to the black side and make a new suburb. And it was just a flip-flopping, right? Just you always wanted to be somebody else, just wasn't proud of it. But at 15 years old, I got stabbed 5 times, got cut me twice in the neck, cut me from here to here, cut me by my lungs, and left me for dead. And I laid there bleeding in 5 parts of my body. And a guy from a town up the road, about 15 miles, called Aberdeen, Mississippi, is right about 20 miles from Mississippi State. Okay, about 20 miles from Mississippi State. This guy just was passing through our city, and he saw me laying on the ground, and nobody would grab me. And he literally pulled his car over, got out, got up some tourniquets, and started binding up my wounds, and threw me in his car, took me to the hospital. And from that point, I developed an aneurysm the size of a golf ball on my neck at 15 years old. and they couldn't do me no good in our small town. Didn't have the physicians that was needed. So they put me in the ambulance. At the time, helicopters wasn't even a choice. Put me in the ambulance. This is in 1991. I was 15 years old. And they drove me 3 hours in the ambulance to Jackson, Mississippi, to the Universal Medical Center on Woodrow Wilson. And so I ended up staying in the hospital about 2 months. My grandmother, my mom's mother, stayed with me and rubbed me, and she would speak over me, Ernest, some great. And I'm gonna try not to cry with this. Said one day some great is gonna happen to you. You're gonna be a great man. You're gonna come through this. And so I got a 50-50 chance of living. And so the aneurysm, sometimes people lose limbs, they lose their memory, they lose some part of their body, but some kind of way, the grace of God, I didn't lose none of that. It's almost photographic memory, just things just went in a total opposite way. But I developed a spirit of anger. And from that, I was very paranoid. I didn't know the Lord. And my mom, at the end of the day, when I got out the hospital, I went back in the same situation. My mom on drugs, and I started all over again. And so I got real angry. So my father had died. My grandfather had died, my mom's dad, and he left my grandmother some shotguns and 16 gauge automatic shotguns, several other rifles and things of that nature. And we was raised hunting and, doing a lot of, because I lived in the country, so you kill rabbits. All these rabbits in Frisco, when I got here, I said, Lord Jesus, look at all these rabbits. I don't know. We would have to go send rabbit dogs out to find the rabbits, and now they're in every alley. And
lunch, dinner, midnight snack, all in my yard right now. Yeah.
I'm telling you. So I ended up, just angry. And I just started being very violent and fighting. And all of a sudden, I would get into it with people, and I would take the gun and go to parks with kids and shoot up the park, kids running everywhere, just shoot up the parks, and just people was very afraid of me, and I was afraid of myself. And it was just a bad situation. And I became a loner. So I stopped dealing with people because I didn't trust nobody, and I would just be off to myself. And that was a bad situation. So one day I got into it with this guy, and he was running in this apartment complex up the stairs. I should be in a movie with all this stuff that happened to me. He was running up the stairs, and I saw him, and I pointed the gun at him. And out of nowhere, 2 ladies, one is my wife today, and her cousin, ran out the house and fought the gun out of my hand to get a guy time to get in the house. Had I pulled the trigger, we would be doing no live podcast right now.
Mm-hmm.
Cicely wasn't even my girlfriend or nothing. I asked her, I said, why did you do it? And she said, I saw something in you, Ernest. I don't even know why. We wasn't dating or nothing. But she seen me, and she said, I saw something in you. And I felt I need to help you. And they wrestled the gun out of my hand. And from that point, I knew that I was over the edge. At the time, you didn't, especially in African-American household, counseling was not an option. Okay, you got an anger problem, it's Jesus or nothing. Okay, mm-hmm. That wasn't no kind of counseling or talking to no one. So you have to, you compress this pain. You compress anger. You hold things in. And in high school, 11th grade in high school, I tried to quit school. And my teacher told me, she said, Ernest, I'm going to tell you something. All of the teachers said, you won't be nothing in life but a dope addict and a dropout. And based on my surroundings, my prophecy was going to be just what they said. That was my teacher. But because I would miss school, and they would come to my house and knock on the door. I didn't want to go to school. Or I stayed out all night doing dope. And, but I played football in high school, and I was good. I was running back, and I was an outside linebacker, and actually got a scholarship to college to play football. But my high school football coach, he found one thing about me. And he said, Ernest, your attitude going to take you a long way in life. Because I really so what he started doing is carving out, Jeff, he started carving out time, 5 minutes before the football team would go out. He would let me motivate the team. And I motivated the team. He started making us wear neckties. Now, I had never wore a necktie, but this high school coach said, you need to put on a tie. Look at Ashley. Look at that. And so we started wearing ties on Fridays. And I had one suit, a black and purple suit. My mom was on drugs. We couldn't even buy clothes, but I bought one suit, and half of the suit was purple and half of the suit was black. Now, you're talking about in the 90s, so that was a going deal, right?
Jeff knows.
Just like I was LSU Tiger, but I know I was Roll Tide. But I wore that suit, and something about it just made me feel good. Regardless of my mom was on drugs, or I know my life, and I even know what my teacher said. But this guy planted a seed in me, and he said something about you is your attitude. You got a great attitude, and I started smiling, and man, it just felt good.
Mm.
It felt good. It was addicted to me, in spite of what I had going on. Could I make somebody else smile? I wanted somebody else to feel just like I felt. And man, I told Cicely, we started dating, and she was ready to graduate, and I was 11th grade. And we just started dating, and she would come to my football games, and she started in college and she didn't finish. And then she was a CSM at Walmart, and she would come to my games and support me. In 1996, I went to this club, and I just felt like something is going to happen to me. Either I'm going to die, or I'm going to go to hell, or I'm going to jail. Something is going to happen, but I didn't feel good about myself. I was in a space, I just didn't feel good. I'm 19 years old. My past is already hunting me, but I feel something I want to change. And I went to a church in '96. My grandmother kept begging me to come to a revival. Back in that day, we had church all the time. Friday night, went to this revival, and gave my life to Christ. And I told Sister about it, and she's like, "You crazy? I can't believe, not you." Now she couldn't even believe me. She said, "I said, I'm telling you," and I said, "I'm gonna tell you two things, and this is very serious." I said, "Two things: we're not gonna have sex no more without being married, and I'm not drinking or smoking no more." And she said, "You crazy? You out of your head?" And I said, "I'm telling you, because if I don't stop, I'm gonna be dead. Like
Mhm.
I'm not gonna make it." And she didn't believe me, and I've done that. And I went about 2 weeks, and I didn't go around her and nothing. And back then we didn't have no cell phone, so you walk. They had a house phone. She would call my house, and we got married in 1996. I stood to altar to marry her with no job. I was an ex-crack dealer. I didn't have nothing. She worked at Walmart. She had a little red Geo Prism. I didn't have no car. She married me, and that was 25 years ago. And we've been through some very challenging times, but we've stayed together. I haven't had a
Mhm.
drink of nothing, beer, liquor, wine, in 25 years. It's going to be 26 years, me and my wife, because I was just in bad shape. I couldn't control my alcohol. I couldn't control who I was.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. That's the first part of my life. That's the
I
real
mean,
deal.
and thank the Lord, I'm going to fast forward to every Thursday morning, that Frisco Chamber grind, man. You're rolling out of bed at 5 to wash your hair on a good day
Mhm.
and show up not in a purple and black suit, but you were best dressed in the room. And I will never forget, we're at Get On Track every Thursday morning, 7:25, 7:35. The bell's going to ring. They're going to shut the doors, right? And you want to talk about an attitude and motivation and empowerment. I mean, your elevator pitch, your commercial was the one that we all look forward to. And that's really, Ernest, how you came into my life. And then by default, Jeff and really the city of Frisco
Yes.
was just so blessed by you, were those Thursday mornings at the Frisco Chamber. And by this time, you're a car salesman. Correct.
Yes.
That's how did we get from, you're standing at the altar to you're a car salesman in Frisco, Texas?
Okay. So in 2004, I came to Bible college in Dallas at Christ for the Nations. In '04, me and my wife and kids, my kids were, of course, small. We moved to Dallas. I was still at home in Amory, but I wanted more. This always felt like something is bigger than this city for me. So I came to Bible college, and then I took a job for Duncanville Ford. Duncanville Ford in Duncanville. We lived in Dallas on campus at Christ for the Nation. So I took a job that I could go to school from 8 to 12. And the guy that ran the place is named Duncan McPhail. Duncan McPhail gave me opportunity to be an intern selling Fords. So I started in Bible college. While I was in college, I would go to the car lot and work from 12 to 8 at night. And I've done that well. And I kept working my way until I ended up, had been at Ford 3 years. So in '07, Duncan told me that he's going to go to Plano to work for a Jaguar store. And he called me Big E. He said, "Big E, you're the only one that I want to come work for me from South Dallas." He said, "I don't know what it is about you. I'm from Canada and you from Mississippi, but I like you. He said, will you drive from Dallas to Plano every day? I had never crossed 35. I like, what you say you work? He said, I work on Plano Parkway. And at that time, before the tollway was developed, all those nice high-end stores was on Plano Parkway. So I would drive. I was always looking for opportunity, right? I followed this guy. I followed this guy from Dallas to Plano to work for him at Jaguar. And they got me in this office, looked like I was a bank president, and these $120,000 cars. We're talking back in 2007. I don't even know how did I get there, but I'm following this guy. And so from that point, we just stayed friends. In 2008, I still felt called to go back to Mississippi. So I went back to pastor church. So after I graduated, I went back home because I feel like I'm going to save my small town. So I went back home to pastor the church, and I stayed there from 2008 to 2015, me and my wife. And I went back with the pastor of the church, but I've been with Ford for 4 years by now because Ford owned Jaguar Land Rover back in that day. Now Tata, which is an Indian company, bought it out. So I had a little time and had some money put up with the company. So I transferred to the small Ford store. Well, in 2008, Obama come president, gas go to $4 a gallon. The world's in a crazy financial crunch. And so I started barbecuing one day a week on my off day to subsidize my income. So I built a barbecue pit, and on Wednesday, I would just set up on side the highway and sell. Well, the car business kept going down and down and down because they had the Ford Excursion. They got all these big cars. Ford didn't take time to develop no smaller cars, so people quit buying, and everybody needed to be bailed out. And I jumped out. So what I did, I started cooking full time and just pastoring the church, and that kind of went from there. From that point, I ended up with 5 locations of restaurant. I had one in a hotel. I had one in Tupelo, Mississippi, with 21 full-time employees in Tupelo, Mississippi, down the road from Elvis Presley's birthplace. I was the largest barbecue guy in Tupelo, but Tupelo wasn't but 35,000 people, okay? It's 35,000 people. My hometown is 6,000 people. But me and that guy from Jaguar stayed friends, and we kept every year talking on the phone. By 2015, the first of 15, my business is going under. Mississippi is not growing. It's nothing coming in. Everything going out. So my wife like, man, this is not working. She's like, Ernest, we better than this. She said, listen, I'm burnt out. The economy in Mississippi is so low, and every big thing we want to do, the infrastructure is not good. She said, we need to go back to Texas. She said, I looked at my last taxes, and we were living in Texas. Now, this in 2008. We was living in Texas. We've done better on paper than we do in Mississippi. She said, let's go back to Texas. I said, well, look, right now we don't have nothing. Let's liquidate the restaurant. All we got left, we just sell out, lose out. I just want out. So you pay going in, you pay coming out. I pay the lease out, I pay this, all that stuff. Finally, we got nothing but our house left, right? Got down to the mortgage. I done liquidated all the barbecue equipment. I called this same guy named Duncan McPhail that I used to intern for. And I said, Duncan, I'm getting out of Mississippi and I'm coming back to Dallas. And this is what he told me. He said, if you come back to this soil, you got to come work for me. I said, where you work at? He said, I'm at a place called Crest Cadillac Infinity in Plano, Texas. He said, man, Big E, that's what he called Big E. If you come work for me, I just feel like things gonna work out. I said, Duncan, man, I hadn't sold cars so many years. He said, if you're the guy I met in 04, you can sell anything. He said, look, just come on up to see us. So I tried to get an application. He says, Berkshire Hathaway, put the app in online. I couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work in Mississippi. So I got in my van and drove 10 hours to put an application in. And he said, man, while you here, you might well go to Care Now on 75 in Parker in Plano. So I put the application in. I went and took my drug test. All this old behind technology. I did all that, got back in my car and drove back to Mississippi. Well, he turning 50. By the time he turned 50 years old, he went to Japan for his 50th birthday. It was 3 weeks later. I'm waiting on him to call me. And then finally one day, December 1st, 2015, he said, come to Frisco. We come to Plano and work for me. So I drove into Plano. I don't have no customer base. I've been at the car business so many years. And I didn't know one person, Jeff and Ashley, not one person, but the guy that hired me at the car lot. Now, how I got into Frisco Chamber. So 2015, 2016, they said we built him a store in Frisco on 121. I said, what Frisco is? Frisco is 20 miles north of Dallas, 25 miles north of Dallas, and it's 20 miles. They start giving me all these metrics of how far it was. So I would just drive over to Frisco and see what they was building. The rest is history. We get to Frisco in 2016 with Crest, but Crest don't have no ties to Frisco. Crest been in Plano so long, they selling cars in Frisco, but they don't have no ties to the city.
Right.
And so Kevin Healy, you know Kevin Healy. Kevin Healy is the chief of staff at Crest. We get to Frisco, the phones weren't even ringing. Nobody was buying cars. So Kevin said, I'm going to give an opportunity to any salesperson to go in the Chamber of Commerce with me. Who want to go? But you got to be up at 7 in the morning. And nobody raised their hand from Cadillac and Volvo or Infiniti. And I said, well, I don't even have no customer base. I'll go. Kevin said, okay, meet me there at 7 o'clock. When I get to Chamber of Commerce at 7, we in this big room. Kevin is an introvert. He want to be behind the computer. He said, man, I need somebody with charisma. Well, I don't have no money. Now, by this time, Ash, I have no money. I don't have no customer base. And I'm living up here with nobody. I got 30 seconds to tell this story about Crest. And that's what happened. Kevin say, listen, man, you're the one for Crest. We're going to pay for you to stay in the public. You just go in every event that Crest need to go, you go. And we're just going to pay for you to be in the city. Any banquets, anything, Crest going to write the check. Because you're the only person that wanted to go. And I kept selling cars, Jeff, and I ended up top 6% in America selling Infiniti. I sold 150 Infinitis a year. Ended up #1 in the store so many times a year. They went in vacations with Crest. They got me and my wife and kids everywhere. And that's what happened. That's the story.
Well, and that's how I met you. But then Jeff, you know Ernest, but you got to talk about the best barbecue you've ever had in your life, Jeff.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We look forward to it. And, we've been, certainly blessed by Ernest. He always thinks of my family, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and, throws a little extra on there on the smoker for us and gives me a text and says, Mayor Cheney, come pick up your ham, come get your turkey. So my family definitely appreciates that. You've actually catered for our Cowboys watching party this year. So just, love your barbecue, but I do have to ask you, what's your personal favorite thing that you cook? Like when you're,
I'm actually known for ribs. So barbecue ribs is my #1 thing. Even right now, when y'all come to Crest and see, they've actually badged this whole place. It's amazing. But in the event center now, it's a big old sign said home of the Texas style ribs inside the event center. But ribs is how people actually discovered me. Now, let me go back and say this right quick. I'm going to give this plug for my mom. My mom was addicted to cocaine. And so while my mom she had this drug problem, I was trying to sell some barbecue, and we didn't have no sauce to put on the barbecue. So my mom on drugs, really with a bad problem. But she said, I got this sauce recipe that my uncle taught me from Waukegan, Illinois. She said, boy, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to show you how to make it. But I can only make a small patch, a portion of it. She said, now I don't have no recipe, but I'm going to teach you how to taste it. I'm going to teach you how to taste what I taste. Now, that's pretty much difficult because you and Ashley got 2 different taste buds, right? But my mama, some kind of way, taught me to taste what she tastes. And as an addicted crack addict, she taught me how to make this sauce. Now, my mom, 22 years ago, surrendered her life to Christ through me in a crack house in Mississippi. And I talked to her this morning. She's been 22 years like on the straight. But she taught me how to make this sauce, and I started making it, and now I ship it all over the world. It's called Mama's Sweet Heat. Mama's Sweet Heat. So the sauce that I put on my food, I've never had but one sauce. The whole exception of my barbecue experience, which is 20 years, I use my mama barbecue sauce that she taught me on the ribs that you. So ribs is my #1 thing. I was selling in Mississippi up to 500 slabs of ribs a week. 500 of ribs a week. And I don't tell them what we're going to do here. But ribs is my #1 thing. And then, of course, I learned how to make Texas brisket. But ribs the #1 thing there.
From your lips to God's ears, for the duration of our friendship, we have talked about God wings, okay?
Yeah.
That's the first time I've ever heard you tell that story about where that sauce comes from Illinois. So you're telling me Look at this coffee mug I'm drinking right now. What state is that?
Wow. That's Illinois, ain't it?
Thank you,
Wow.
Jesus.
I've never told that story.
I've never heard that story, nor did I pick this coffee mug.
I want to give you more detail. Yeah, that's crazy. My
Go
uncle
Cubs, go. Go Cubs, go. So look, we've talked about, it's insane. Your story, your journey is amazing. We need a 75-hour podcast to really give it. And we're going to have to do Ernest B's part 2. But we've gone from the top 6% car salesman. We all know, everybody listening, watching, best barbecue in Frisco. It's the best. We love you. It's so, so good. You've got the church. Talk to me about the church.
Okay. So the church started. So, when you go from having what I had in Mississippi, I didn't come to Frisco with no agenda. I came here not even knowing what Frisco was. I followed Crest to Frisco. It wasn't like God said, go to Frisco. I was just following the car lot. The car lot so happened to be moving to Frisco. And when I came to Frisco, I was extremely terrified because it was just a different everything. Like Frisco, I said an air is thin. It's just a certain level of everything. And when you're coming from a very impoverished place, when you're coming from a place, it's got to be God. And I, everything that's happened to me, it was just so many amazing relationships like me and you and Jeff got. Just great relationships has sustained me. By the way, 6 years I've been living in Frisco. Okay, so has sustained me through great relationships. But, through the church was birthed out of my passion for people. And it's 5 years old. And everybody in my church started with me at the car lot. So all the people that bought Infinities for me sat on the other side of my desk and I sold Infinities to. And I looked around and I saw where the other sales guys wasn't going to church, and I just had a passion for ministry. Now, by this way, I don't know no church. I don't know nobody that's in church here at the time I came. And the Lord just placed on my heart to start a church. So I started the church at Crest. So the same place my restaurant in, the owner would come and say, hey, look, you can use the event space to get going. And then I rented the Marriott in Shops of Legacy, the old Legacy, on that side of Bishop. And I rented the Marriott out because the guy that was managing the Marriott, I sold 2 Infinities to. And he loved me. He said, hey, if I ever can help you. So one day I called him up. His name was Ross Cable. By the way, he's retired now after 25 years, moved back to Florida. I called him up, Ross Cable. Mr. Cable, this Earnest Morgan and Chris. Oh, Ernest, yes. How can I help you? I said, listen, I got a passion in my heart to start a church, but I don't have no money. And I don't even know where we're going to put the church at. He said, well, I got a space. You come see it. So the rest is history. So the church started from Crest just as a passion. Again, listen, I had no ties to Frisco, no ties to people. It was just me selling the car, and from the car, stuff started happening. It was more like God saying, I'll give you more in your way than you do before you start. Sometimes everybody want to go to A to Z. Man, I have went A, B, C, D. I went 3 years and nobody really know who I was. They just see this guy smiling. They don't know this untold story. They see the guy on Facebook with pictures. They don't know where I come from. I'm living a double life. I just been given grace. But that church started Crest Infinity.
That is insane. And I think, a lot of what Jeff and I were talking about, and one of the reasons we were so honored to have you come on, and, Jeff's going to talk about it, but I think now you are really doing the most important thing you could have ever done in your life. And it has nothing to do with a title or a career.
Yeah. I feel more fulfilled right now than because I felt like Frisco was in my future. I just didn't see it. Frisco was my destination, but Mississippi was my preparation. So he prepared me.
Well, and you've really become a leader in that regard, as far as in the community and being a voice in the community. And of course, as you know, we have our inclusion committee here in Frisco, and that's a passion of mine and the rest of council's is, as we say, is once you get to Frisco, we want you to feel welcome. We want you to feel safe. And that's been a big passion of yours. You've been a big help for us. Talk to us about that and the work you're seeing happening here.
Frisco has been so fulfilling to me. This is something actually you don't know this, but one day me and my wife had planted the church was in actually Allen, and Jeff, and before his chief of staff, what is her name? Miss
Lori. Yeah.
Yes, Lori, Miss Lori. I just called and I said, can I talk to the mayor? God just placed on my heart. What can I do to help Mayor Cheney? And I know it's kind of strange because most time people probably trying to get some from you, but I just wanted to find a way. How can I help him with the city? And so he made time for me to come to his office, and that was shocking to us. And I was just saying, hey, what can we do to help you in Frisco? That was like 3 years ago. What I'm doing now is far more than what I was doing, but I had a heart to see Frisco thrive. Because when I started getting peace in Frisco, I know God sent me here. And God has sent me to Frisco when I started getting definition was to help the city be better in every area. It wasn't so much in the economics, it wasn't the school, but just the fullness of Frisco. And with me, the plus of me being in Frisco is I was born in Mississippi. So I'm like, okay, I know what racism is. I know what uh, unity is. I know what it feels like to be accepted. And I know what it feels like to be rejected. I'm just the kind of guy, I've been on both sides of the track. I never felt that in Frisco. I felt strange when I first came because they didn't know who I was, but I also felt fulfilled. I felt like, man, this is the place that God chose to place me. For whatever that means, I don't even know what the future holds, but it's better than where I come from. Even though the income, what it takes to live here is 3 times what it takes for me to live in Mississippi, like mentally, I had to see myself being able to do it and not be intimidated, but know that God had purposed me to be here. So what I started doing is developing for the cars. I just wanted to go to different groups and just, hey, look, I'm Ernest. If I can help you, I've never been like a taker. Like if you get me, I'm always give. Because the way I was raised, I just was raised to have skin in the game, right? I always want to make sure that I did everything I could to help a situation. It's just the bottom line. So when I be nice, it's just authentic. It's no loops in it. I don't have nobody to impress. When you see me, what you see is what you get. I'll never be two different Ernest. It's just me. So when I started developing a relationship with people, it wasn't by selling the cars, actually. Like, how is your kids doing today? What can I do? What can we bring? Blah, blah, blah. And so what I started doing was just more wanted to know people. Mm. I was so far in front of George Floyd's situation. I was years in front of it with key leaders in the city that when George Floyd hit, we had enough concrete relationship that I could take a choice and say, hey, I don't think that's right. I feel like we should go this route. Mm-hmm. And so my intentionality was for me to do everything I could to build bridges in Frisco through just loving people and bringing a more of a clear view on certain issues that some people may not want to tackle.
Well, speaking about the future, and what it holds, you almost let it slip a couple times in this. Do we have a big announcement coming as far as the future of barbecue in Frisco?
Yes. So wind it up. 2020 came, COVID hit. We passed in the church, the doors closed. I came to my house, built a studio in the house. I'm doing the church for 8 months online. And as I'm doing online, I just felt like I needed to get something to subsidize my income. Me and my wife said, well, we don't have the money for brick and mortar in Frisco right now. She said, but let's just do a food truck that we can manage it. We can manage our time and just. So my wife was still working at Crest. She had some money put up. And so when she left in February, we took some money from what she had been saving over the years. And I had been, catering and stuff. And we developed this food truck. And we developed it, and I never even had a mind to go back to Crest. I got my own thing. I'm just going to send people to Crest. And I just kind of went my own way. Through 2020 into 21, we come to Crest to do the ribbon cutting finally. I asked you to come to my ribbon cutting. That was in May 21st, 2021. Justin Miller, Ashley's husband, was so kind. The personal friends of mine. He developed all these logos and phrasings for my truck and customized the truck. And I never seen the truck nowhere, not online. I never seen the book. I just got with Justin and had all these ideas, and we kind of bounced them back and forth. And do I do a food truck? Do I do a trailer? The pros and cons. But Justin really walked with me to kind of tell me what he thought. But when I developed the food truck, I kept going back to Crest and I did the ribbon cutting. Now 590 people showed to the ribbon cutting. You know, we had fielded event space 3 times. Both fire trucks in Frisco showed. We had the mayor Cheney was there. We had the alderman show. We had the council came. Like everybody came, and you know,
everyone loves you.
Yeah, it was amazing, just really amazing. So on the 21st of May, I'm cooking at Crest, and by October, you know, I'm still cooking, and November came. They said, well, we get ready to change executive chefs. Can you come up and cook 26 turkeys? 26 turkeys. I had 50 orders for Thanksgiving myself. Mayor Cheney had a ham. I had already hit. Chief Shilston had a ham. I had all these crazy orders all over the city, not just turkeys. So I got 75 turkeys to cook on top of brisket and all this other stuff. So the owner of Crest said, hey, look, if you cook the 26 turkeys, we'll let you use Crest Event Center to get all your orders out. Because it was really, I didn't have capacity. I had good vision, but no capacity. My truck really was too small. But I had enough pride to say it wasn't, and it was. God had a greater mind. I needed the space because I literally had Crest, the whole event center filled with food. I cooked those turkeys inconveniently. I didn't have the time, but I did it. And 2 days later, they called me and say, hey, we changed executive chefs. We're getting ready to open a new superstore, and we want out the food business. You've been here so long with us. You haven't been in the dealership, but you've been loyal to the brand. We want to give you an opportunity. What would you think about having your own franchise like the airport? I said, huh? Yes. That opportunity came to me. Me and my wife had been praying and believing in the food truck and all that. And then it started to make sense. I said, yes. So they dissolved. Crest totally got out of the business, of the food business. And the company closed that part of the segment. I was able to come in and lease that space. And then I got a bistro in the Infinity store. And I got a bistro in Cadillac. So I got 3 locations that we actually own. And now it's Earnest Barbecue Catering headquarters because the food truck runs from Crest. And all of our operations now is at Crest Infinity. And I inherited staff that worked for Crest. We took over the whole operation. And God had been preparing me all these years. But I didn't even know, Jeff. I didn't know. I didn't ask for this. I didn't propose a plan. I didn't say, hey, this will work. It's just like, I come to cook some turkeys. It might have been your ham that I cooked that got me this blessing. But I just was doing what I do with no strings attached. I just wanted God to be proud of me and my gift. I never saw this coming.
So, oh man, well, you deserve all your blessings. And this community loves you, and you're going to get to meet more people because they're going to get to come see you in person, right? Because the new restaurant, you can tell me, you know, the tables, everything. You can eat lunch, dinner.
The new restaurant opens. We're going to do a grand opening. You're going to get a text from me because I'm on, you know, Tony Felker been on me every week because they come to Rotary. I host Rotary on Thursdays, and everybody's seeing the new signs going up, and everybody want to know. The chamberlain called me twice. When are we doing the ribbon cut? And when are we doing the grand opening? And I said, I'm going to do it in February because the sign that we got, a nice LED sign that's as big as the Cadillac sign. They go in the front of the event center, Ernest B's. You can see it from the tollway coming up 121 in Legacy. But February, sometime by the end of February, we're going to do a ribbon cutting and a full deal. So it's located. If you're looking for me, when you pull that Crest, it's 6100 Highway 121 in Frisco. And it's Crest, Cadillac, Infinity, Volvo. All 4 stores is there. And my food truck is right in front of the restaurant. So the event center, we will host events, but I first had to change the system that it was there because we do a lot of parties. I had like 18 groups meeting there, but I'm changing up some things to make it better. I'm putting a full patio in. So when you pull in Crest, we got a full patio with umbrellas. It'll be really nice. People can sit out and relax. The doors actually opens up to the event center because we used to put Escalades in for Mary Kay. We host all those events. So all the things we normally do, we're still going to do them. We're just changing the scale. I don't sell 100% barbecue. I'm 75% barbecue, but I got 25% regular hamburger. You can come there and get a regular burger. You can get a regular salad. We can fix you a grilled chicken. It's just an amazing. I got about 35 amazing items because we do breakfast. So we start at 7 in the morning. because you realize Crest got 350 employees between the 4 stores. So the bistros in each service department in Cadillac and Infinity. So when you come into the service department to get your oil change or whatever, you walk into this place where you can get a taco. I do chicken and biscuits. I do sausage biscuits. Today, my special, my taco and burrito was brisket, egg, and cheese. I do energy bowls with yogurt and granola and all that stuff. We do all of that. I mean, it's an amazing. I can do pancakes, bacon, eggs. That's the breakfast. Then I got an Earnest Bees all day. You just want a hamburger. You want just something really simple. And then we sell every kind of barbecue product. But it's mainly for people to understand that Crest is a destination for food, not just cars. And some more things we'll reveal as time go, but it's going to be amazing. I just ask anybody, if you want the experience, just people that genuinely care, that's me and my family. We really care. We really do.
Well, and we know that and we feel that. And, as we wrap up, one thing that I think would be really cool, again, from our lips to God's ears, when we get ready to take Untold on the road, Jeff, maybe our first live show is right there at Earnest Bees Barbecue. Well, Ernest, thank you so, so much for taking time. They're just, again, we've talked about this. We have to have Earnest Bees Part 2 because there are so many things that we didn't even get to get into today that are just so special about you and your family. And we love you. We're so grateful that you're here. You couldn't have gotten here fast enough. You're never leaving. So good luck. You're Frisco for life now.
I can't leave.
All right. Well, thank you, Ernest. We appreciate you. We've been trying to get someone to cry, so you are our first guest to cry.
Man, I almost just fell out because it's so real. Like I think about some of the things that, when it's just real. It's a real story that I've been graced to tell. I'm just thankful to be here, and I'm extremely humbled that y'all gave me this opportunity.
All right. Well, stay tuned to those world famous ribs. We're looking forward to the grand opening.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
All right. See you soon.
Bye, Ernest.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Hey. What a guest. I just, you might not have seen it because of the Botox, but I was very emotional. It was so good. We're just so fortunate that we have Ernest, and this show, it just surprises me time and time again. These kind of, he's not a hidden gem, but there's so many parts of the story and the journey that really make Ernest the man that he is today. I think they're so important to tell because it will resonate with people, but it also makes you love him more, if that's even possible.
I'd never heard those stories, of all these years that I've known him. So I definitely learned new things, about him. We didn't even get to talk about his kids. I mean, his son is, I guess, an accomplished golfer. And so, again, they've been brought to Frisco. He, I think, wants to work for PGA Frisco. And his daughter is studying to be a teacher. Of course, we love our teachers. And that's going to segue me into my community shout out, which is a company that we use all the time called Teacher by Day Event Services. This is a company started by Frisco resident Aaron Swain. And so they employ teachers, and then at nights and on the weekends, they can help you with event services. So we hired them, as you mentioned, for my birthday party and the Super Bowl party, or the football party that we hosted that Ernest B did the food for, and a couple other events. So we've used them now, I think, 4 or 5 times. Caitlin is our go-to person. We just love them, what they represent. And so if you're looking for a company to help you with that next party, we highly recommend Teacher by Day Event Services.
That's so good. It does also segue to mine. Before we go, I just wanted to quickly shout out, Ernest's daughter is actually a director at a Primrose, I believe in Plano. My children have been at Primrose since almost just about the time they were born. Finley was young when she started. And what a time to be a teacher. What a time to be an educator. I mean, to say that they're superheroes would be the understatement of the century. I just have the most utmost respect. I think we all kind of learned during 2020 what it was like to be teachers in our own homes, right? They probably got the best Christmas gifts they've ever gotten in their lives by the time we were able to send our children back. But our Primrose, we're at Griffin Park. There's several that are kind of owned by the same owners, and they do a fantastic job above and beyond education. I mean, Finley comes home every day, and she's inspired during a pandemic, nonetheless, where we got to do math outside today. And of course, I understand, well, it's keeping you safe, sister, right? There's some social distancing or themed days. They may be masked up, not able to hug each other and touch the blocks and do all the things that they want to do, but she's dressed as a pirate. So it's the greatest day of her life. The way they've been able just to bring the imagination and the joy back into this very difficult time, working through illnesses and doing everything in their power to keep our family safe and giving it 110%. My community shout out, Primrose, specifically Griffin Park. I love you guys. Thank you for giving me sanity during the day to do my job and taking care of my babies as if they're, your own. I just can't say enough about you guys. We love you so, so much. So teacher shout out segment 3 complete. I love it.
All right. Well, thanks again to Ernest for joining us. Thank y'all for watching. And please message us if you think there's some community shout outs we need to do, or there's some untold stories around Frisco that you want us to share. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.